Welcome to Old College Try, the all things college podcast, specifically around affordability, financial aid, scholarships. End of the month, that means we are answering your questions. Q&A grab bag. As always, please continue to send these to us. We pay attention to them, specifically on social media. So send them to us wherever you follow us on socials. If you don't, please do. We will do our best to answer them. Thanks for listening. Okay, everybody, officially summer.
Yep.
Actually.
Yep. Hi, stranger. I feel like we haven't been on the pod together in like a month, so.
Yes, do pleasantries first, you're right. I was saying to Rosie last night, I'm like, holy shit, the days are starting to get short. The days will start to get shorter now, if we can believe it. But we're still well in the middle of summer. But, just like that, baby. Just like that.
And time is flying as usual.
That's fine as usual. How are you, Peggy?
I am good. Everything's good. I'm sweltering, but I signed up for that, so it's 105 or something, in Tucson. But it's June, and June's our first month, which is kind of funny because growing up in Jersey, like August was the worst. It was the most humid, hottest. Most places June, it's just getting started. It's not, but here it's definitive. So it's kind of good. Get that month out of the way. That's the worst. And then it's matter of degrees better. It's not like it drops 10 degrees, but take
all relative. Relative as
exactly.
Yeah. So obviously, end of the month, we will get into our Q&As. We will get to your questions, and again, please continue to send those in. We'd love to see them on socials, and those of you that do, I think we have a pretty good batting average in terms of answering them here and other places. So just hopefully motivation. As you have a question, just fire it off, and we Kathy, who manages our socials, is all over that. She pays attention to them, makes sure she prioritizes getting them to us, and we do our best to hopefully provide some value and answer your questions. But before we do that, Peggy, let's set the stage here. Give us a tune, get the people going a little bit.
Yeah. So we always pick a song because Matt and I are super into music, and we have this really awesome playlist. So check that out as well when you're looking at episodes. But yeah, so my song, it's Luke Combs, and it's called Days Like These. It's just, I can't get enough of this song. It's on his new album, The Prequel. So it is country, so if you're an anti-country, you might not like it, but I would still say, hey, give it a listen. It's a good one. It's a really good one. I was telling Matt in the green room, might even sing a few lines of it when I do toast for my daughter when she gets married. So it's a great getting married song too. The
And
message.
remind us, Peggy, when's the big day for Shannon?
July 25th, so less than a month. It's crazy.
That exciting, awesome, and that is up in the Seattle area, or
Yeah, it's
okay.
right in the city. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that'll be a blast. Fun times, and maybe Peggy gets on the mic with her husband Bill. They're they could be a household name. I don't know, within the next couple of years, Peggy, your guys' next career, right?
We are talking about doing an open mic night. Actually, fun fact, I did open mic night in grad school in Bloomington, Indiana, with these other guys. And then I'm like, wow, this is so much fun. And then I ended up doing it because, I play the guitar. I'm not like my husband. I'm not great. But when you're playing in a bar, you just have to be good enough, and I had a lot of fun playing even on my own, but I haven't done it for years. It's a
Get the
fun
people
thing to
going. You got that stage presence, Peggy. You know how to get the people going. Okay, so this is a question we get. I don't know. This is probably one of the most consistent questions we get in one form or the other, and there's kind of a lot in here, so you can take your time with it. But I'm going to ask it the way exact verbatim how it was asked, because this is usually how it's asked, right? I think pretty close to this version. It sounds simple, but I think, but again, as we unpack this, we'll find out there's a decent amount in here. The question is, how does my kid get scholarships? Full stop.
Yeah. So to your point, it's a great word. Let me unpack this. So what this person really wants is a discount, right? And it might come in the form of a scholarship that would be merit-based, or it could come in the form of need-based very rarely called a scholarship, but who cares? It's a discount off of the $100,000, $70,000, $40,000 price tag. So that's the first thing, is to just go a step higher. So if we're looking at discounts and then we say there's merit scholarships and there's need-based grants is what we call it. But some schools, you've seen it, Matt, so have I. Some schools call them scholarships, even though they're based on your finances.
Right.
So that's the first thing I just want to point out. So the first thing is you want to see if you're eligible for need-based aid, because that's a way to get a discount. And you could also get merit with it. That does happen. It's not all the time, but it's not rare either. So keep that in mind, because people throw out this, it's one of the most commonly Googled words, right? FAFSA and scholarships. So you've got to make sure that you know if you're eligible for need-based grants. And as we've said a million times on this podcast, if you haven't done it or you're a newbie, go to mycap.collegeaidpro.com, set up your free account, mycap.collegeaidpro.com. It'll be with the episode in there. Put in 3 schools. We're going to tell you what the colleges think you can afford. That's the whole piece around the need-based. Now, when we go to the other piece of scholarships, that actually has 2 different pieces. There's merit scholarships from the college, and then there's also what we call private scholarships. So where you want to start is the merit-based scholarships from the colleges. These colleges are all discounting, like I said, bless you. So they either do it with need-based grants based on your finances, but say you're lucky enough and you make $1 million a year. Well, you're not going to get any need-based grants, but you still don't want to pay 100 grand. We totally get it. That's where the merit scholarships come into play. It's just another form of discounting. Bill Gates's kids can get merit scholarships, and many kids that receive merit scholarships on paper in the financial aid office, they think they can afford to pay full price. Office of Admissions doesn't care and says, hey, we want this. We want Matt Carpenter. We're going to give him $20,000 a year in a provost scholarship. We're cutting that cost. We hope that they say yes, and we get that net revenue. So how do you find those? Again, if you have your free MyCap account set up, we have all the merit scholarships in there, because some schools are awesome at offering 20, 30, 40,000 a year in merit. And then other schools like the Ivies and the Stanfords and the NESCACs like Amherst Williams, zip. They never, ever will give out that money. That's just part of what we like to call their business plan. They're very good with the need base, but they don't offer the merit. So you can actually build a list and look at all of that in our tool. So that's how you can find these. Now, private scholarships, that should be added on. So maximize what you're going to get from the college between need-based grants, if applicable, and merit scholarships. Then rely on filling the gap with private scholarships. That should not be your go-to, except in specific situations. Say your child really wants to go to Yale and you make $1 million. Well, you're not getting a discount at Yale. So if you want that discount, you're going to have to go find private money, because they will not award the merit scholarships, like I said. So there is a place for private scholarships, but it's not the first thing you should be looking at, in our opinion, a cap, hands down.
Right.
Do you want to add anything in there, Matt?
I'll pick a couple nits here. Uh, so one thing, this is an outlier, right? But we have had a couple of families that have shown over $1 million in income on their tax returns qualify for need-based financial aid. Now,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
your point,
I shouldn't have. Yeah,
yeah,
I should have gone higher, but yeah, there's always, yeah.
well, look it. To your point, more often than not, if your income is over $1 million, you're not going to be eligible for need-based financial aid, right? So
With
outside of
one
what
kid in school, and
school,
yeah, yeah.
and not a unique situation outside of the federal direct student loan, which you are entitled to if you complete the FAFSA, right? Um, but I just shared that, because a lot of we run into a common misconception that there's like a cutoff or this black and white system. If you're above X amount in income and or X amount in savings, you are not eligible. And there's just too much nuance in this process to have those kind of black and white rules. So I just wanted to share that, right? Just some of the people be like, that you're even if you make over $1 million, you're not dead in the water in terms of need-based
Yeah,
financial
you
aid.
gotta do your homework. You gotta do your homework, potentially get professional help to know where you fit at different schools.
Percent. That's the first one. The second one, just to kind of double down on private scholarships, and we talk about this any chance we get the opportunity. This statistic that we share often, talk about internally, that of all the financial aid that's given each year, about 5% comes from private scholarships, right? So that is where we try to have people focus their time, effort, energy, resources on the 95% of the pie, right? Not on this sliver, because that sliver is arguably the loudest part of the pie, right? The loudest part of the noise, where there's just this misconception because there's a ton of marketing around private scholarships. A lot of companies, that's kind of their value proposition, that create an account with us and you're going to get all of these private scholarships, which again is just for the vast majority of folks, it's not going to move the needle in terms of whether or not a college is going to be affordable for you. Okay. And just so that's the headline. The quick kind of bullets underneath that I would put is, if and when you do look for private scholarships, you shop locally, and then again after that, and I will kind of recommend our own book, or praise our own book again, whatever that saying is. Go into your MyCap account, right? We have every private scholarship in the country there, outside of all the local ones, but by and large, all the private scholarships are in there, and you can filter by, here's where I live, here's what I want to major in, here's my ethnicity, here's the groups I'm involved with, and filter down into what scholarships might make sense for you to target. So again, just singing our own book there, but I think that might be it, Peggy. I think it might be singing our own book. I don't know.
Your own praises, you mean?
Yeah, kind of.
Singing your own praises?
We're pumping up
Singing
our.
your own book? I haven't heard that one, so.
That's probably not right, but what I'm going for is we are pushing people towards our own platform, towards
Yeah.
y-
Well, there's
but
a free version, it's the best out there, yada yada. So, do what
yeah.
you want. But and the one thing I'll add before I hit you with your question, Matt, is do this early.
Mm,
Start, your child's a rising senior, you should be doing it now. Even if your child's a rising junior, you should be doing this now. Figure out if you're eligible for need-based aid at different schools and how much. And where is the merit money? Don't wait. You don't want to build a list and then check it. Like, that's backwards. Like, build the list, understanding this and with this in mind. It seems really logical when I say it, but most people don't do it that way. They don't think about it, and they focus on the other things, academics and personal fit. And then they're like, okay, now let me figure it out. Well, you don't go to the car lot, drive all these cars, and then go, oh, now let me look at the sticker price or what I can negotiate it to. So,
yep,
anyways, okay.
yep.
Second question, switching gears. What if we don't qualify for, I'm going to call it a Parent Plus loan. The question said plus loan. Technically, it is a plus loan, but it's a
Yeah.
parent loan. So that's one of the federal loans. So Matt, why don't you kind of, let's assume people maybe aren't familiar with that, and then hit that one.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to talk about around these federal Parent Plus loans, as we call them, especially some of the very significant recent changes, where if you pay attention to us at all, you hear us talk about this almost every week. We'll continue to through the summer, certainly, and probably for the next year or so anyways. But this is the federal government program for parents that are sending their kids to college, that need to borrow, right? We have the federal direct student loan that students are entitled to utilize. The big caveat there is that it's capped at $5,500 for their freshman year, $6,500 sophomore year, $7,500 junior and senior year, total of $27,000 that the students can borrow over the course of 4 years. Most families have to borrow, or many families have to borrow, something in addition to that. And oftentimes it's the parents that are contributing here, or at least, in unison with the kids, because the kids cannot borrow anything above those caps without some type of cosigner. Okay. So, and again, presumably the parents. So the federal government has this program for parents that historically the parents could borrow an unlimited amount. So you need to come up with $100,000 for college, $5,500, $5,000 thereabouts for the federal direct student loan. You need to borrow the rest, no problem. Here you go. Here's $95,000 for the difference in order to attend this college, right? The federal government historically has been giving blank checks to families in order to make college happen. I would argue many of us on at College Aid Pro would argue a lot of kind of folks that pay attention to this ecosystem, this higher education space would argue so that's probably the number one variable and we'll kind of end here and I'll revisit this, but why college costs have exploded because colleges know there's kind of an unlimited well of money, blank checks that the federal government is going to write. That has changed, and this is the first year it has changed. Now the federal government is capping PLUS loans to $20,000 a year, but an aggregate, a total of $65,000 over the course of 4 years. So, for example, if a family borrows $20,000 for years 1, 2, and 3, they can only borrow $5,000 for senior year. Okay, so a $65,000 total. This is massively significant for a few reasons. Number one, there was a recent study that came out, and maybe we can put this in the show notes, but I'm forgetting the two kind of think tanks that did this, but they combined to do this, but they estimated that 40% of families that need to borrow, specifically parents for college, 40% of those are not going to be eligible for loans in the private sector. Their only option is going to be PLUS loans. That number goes up to 60% for Pell eligible families. In other words, families that have a lower income, that don't have a lot of resources, the ones that are going to need and qualify for the most financial aid. So the reason why this is uber important, okay, especially for you class of 2026, 27, 28, 29 families, you need to find out now, especially this is mission critical if you're a family that needs to borrow over $20,000, which is not a small percentage of the population, right? You need to find out now, am I eligible for loans in the private sector or through state options? In case, because if I'm not, we might have to look seriously at going to a different college because we know we can't get more than $20,000 through the PLUS loan through the federal government. So,
Yeah. Or if you like the question is saying, what if we don't qualify? Or to me, even if or you apply, the caps are there and you don't qualify, you're gonna have to look there too.
that's right. So let's talk about this because the PLUS loan. The reason being the reason that a meaningful percentage of families won't qualify for a private loan or a state option, but will qualify for the federal PLUS loan is because they are by far the most lenient in terms of their requirements to be eligible for this loan program, right? And again, for some families, that means the only option. Now, you're not guaranteed to get it, right? You still could be denied that PLUS loan. So what happens then? There's a couple things to talk about. Number one, and this is not, nobody's going to spoon feed you this information in my experience. If you're denied as a parent the PLUS loan, the student becomes entitled to borrow $4,000 more dollars. Okay. Usually you, and usually the student specifically, has to contact your college's financial aid office, say, my parent was denied the PLUS loan. I'm eligible to borrow $4,000 more via the federal direct student loan. I would like to do that. And there's kind of an administrative process that will facilitate that. But it's only $4,000 more, right? So again, for a lot of families, the delta might be bigger. Now, that's better than nothing. We're cutting into that. So
And it's
what
4,000 for all 4 years, not per year. So
that's
yeah.
right. The next kind of step here, okay, outside of saying, okay, we can't go to that college, or we don't have something tangible, because you can dispute the finding, but usually there needs to be something really tangible. Is that you can get what's called an endorser to the PLUS loan. Now, in layman's terms, that's a cosigner, okay, but the important thing to consider here, and as you think about, because obviously this is like a demoralizing place to be, I think, for a lot of families. We've talked to a ton of families that are that look at we got we got denied in the private sector, we got denied in the state options, we got denied the plus loan. And now we're gonna have to ask somebody if there's even somebody that if there is a grandparent, an aunt, a dear friend, whatever, that might be willing to endorse the plus loan. But what's important to understand here is that this endorser, it's not as big of a quote unquote risk as being a cosigner on kind of your standard loan. Okay, if you're essentially borrowing this person's credit score, if that person, if the plus loan doesn't get paid back by you as the parent, the lender, i.e., the federal government, is not going to go after that endorser in the same way that, for example, they will a cosigner on a private loan, right? If the main borrower on a private loan doesn't pay it, they're going to go after the cosigner essentially. So if any of you have to have these difficult conversations with somebody in your life, that's something that you can add to say, hey, this is not like I'm asking you to co-sign a mortgage or a private loan, whatever. There is less, again, quote unquote, risk there. But obviously, we want to start doing our homework here as early as possible, so it's not kind of right as the clock is ticking that we have to have these really hard conversations maybe, or think about who can I even ask if there is anybody to ask. So again, that's why it's an important question. I'm glad it came up, and these are some things that again we want people to be as proactive as possible on.
When you do wanna step back, I mean, the financial planner in me always comes out and take a deep breath and say, "Is this affordable?" Just because there's different entities that might enable you to do it, and it might be at exorbitant interest rates, like, you're the consumer, you can make these decisions. So you need to sit back and really look at affordability, and also when you're doing this, look at it not just for that year that you're dealing with. This is a 4-year deal, and you've gotta think about it that way. Everything is presented as a 1-year deal by the colleges, but it's on you as parents, students to realize, obviously, you're not going to college for 1 year, so keep that in mind as well.
Yep, 100%. And the yeah, okay. So I think that kind of covers that particular question, Peggy. So
We do have a borrowing toolkit that we can share
good
with
idea.
the episode, and we go through really nicely the process for you, and that's just a great place to look at the different buckets that you can look at, and you're shopping. You're shopping for debt. You truly are, just like you were shopping for colleges.
100%. That's a great point. Okay, so we get a version of this question a lot as well, right? And the way that it was articulated, and I'll kind of give my little preamble before I let you run with it, Peggy. But the verbatim here is: how does a $200,000 income family pay for college when they have very little saved up, right? And these are the label that I use, and I think a few of us use here internally, is kind of these bubble families, these families that they're not eligible for much financial aid, kind of if any, but they're not ready to start cutting checks for 100 grand a year, and they haven't had the opportunities to save for college each year, right? A lot of these families have just started making, or in kind of their prime income earning years, but it's not like it's been that way since their kids were born, right? They haven't had the opportunity to save for um, 18 years. So, what do these families do? And just one more layer there is that I'll say, I think for these families, this can be one of the hardest places to be in, right? Where they're not, again, they can't start cutting these huge checks. They're also not eligible for these massive discounts, at least from a need-based financial aid standpoint. So how do you coach these families, Peggy?
Again, I mean, it's kinda like I'm saying the same thing over and over again. The first place is to get in there and really know, because 200 grand is a lot of money, but at the same time, it's not, right? And you just said earlier, Matt, like, you can make $1,000,000 and get need-based. So it totally depends on the school. Sure, if your child's looking at community college, not gonna be a thing. Your child's looking at a state school that's reasonably priced. I just came from the state of Washington a year ago. It's like pushing $40,000 all in. It's not
Mm.
cheap anymore. So just make sure that you do your homework on that piece. Making $200,000, there's a lot of schools in this country where you will be eligible for need-based aid. So that's the first thing. Do your homework. Don't listen to your sister or your neighbors. Really put in your information. And then Matt kind of teased this earlier. If you have nuances, families have nuances, right? That's something that can play out down the road. And that's where you really need a professional. And we are top of the drawer doing that kind of stuff, of helping you present to the colleges. So I just the biggest takeaway is, oh, I make 200K, but I'm stuck.
Right.
You're gonna have to pay something. The college is gonna expect you to pay something for sure. There's also strategies that 200K can go down if you plan early enough, meaning pre January 1 of your child's sophomore year in high school, which I know sounds insanely early, but that's the tax year they're going to start looking at for that need-based aid. So if we've got freshmen and rising sophomore parents listening, please, please, please start thinking about it now. It's not too early, especially if your income's pretty steady Eddie. Then, as we've talked about earlier today, who cares if you make 200 grand if you've got a kid that's got good grades and test scores? And by the way, there are some colleges that give every kid a merit scholarship. You don't have to be what I, sarcastically call a super kid, perfect SATs and a 5.0 weighted GPA. So there's different ways to get discounts. The other thing I'll say from an emotional standpoint is don't beat yourself up. You are where you are. And as Matt said, it's difficult to be able to save for retirement and to save for kids. And especially if you live in an expensive part of the world. Matt lives in Boston. I used to live in Seattle. They're expensive. So you can make 200 grand and it doesn't go that far, right? Or the Bay Area, just depending on where you live. So don't beat yourself up about it, but just realize again, do your homework, understand where you fit. And if you are in a spot where you can start saving, start sticking it away. And that kind of I'm setting myself up for the next question with that.
All right. Well, we'll pause right there, but I'll just give a quick, and I will in fact hit that question in just a second here. But I'll just give you this quick, and this isn't unique to Massachusetts, right? But I'll just pick on my home state here. But if you are in fact, if you're a family of four living in my town in Beverly, Mass, okay, and you're making 200K on the nose or close to it, you don't have much in the way of savings, specifically non-retirement savings. And Amherst College, which costs about probably $105,000 next year, is probably going to be more affordable for your family than UMass Amherst, our state flagship, which is going to be around 45 next year. And guess what? You make 200K, you're getting zero discounts, and they don't do much with merit, if anything. So again, if a family of four making 200K with no savings, the $100,000-ish college probably more affordable than your state flagship university. Now, again, every college is different in terms of how generous or not they are, but I want that to burn a hole in your brain a little bit, because the takeaway being that, okay, as I'm putting my list of colleges together, I'm not necessarily going to have the sticker price lead the charge. And
Yeah, it
again,
never should. Yeah, it never should lead the charge. Yeah. And that what Matt just laid out, it happens. It happens.
done.
It happens. It's not rare. It's counterintuitive. And we would show it on our webinars. Like, look at this school, and this family's gonna pay 15 or 20, and Amherst or UW or whatever school, whatever state you're gonna pick from and pick the private school is much less. Now there's a lot of moving pieces. Is that a good fit for your child? Can your child get in? Those tend to be the schools that are very hard to get into. But all is not lost. All
Yep.
is not lost. Don't throw your hands in the air and just start going into massive amounts of debt.
Yep.
Take
Okay, Peggy. Okay, next question here. So, if I have a senior in high school right now, and then again, let me make sure I articulate it the way it was communicated. Should I start saving in a 529 if my child is a rising senior? Said another way, is it too late if my kids are getting ready to go to college soon? Or we get the question: my kid's in college. Should I still put money into a 529? How'd you answer that?
Yeah, so the thing with 529s is you get tax-free growth. And then as long as you use it for qualified education expenses, which is anything the college requires, travel is the big one that doesn't fall in that category. So getting on an airplane, that's the one that people think logically would be, and that's the main one that it's not. But tuition fees, room and board, books, all that kind of stuff, if you are mandated to get a certain computer. So it's the tax-free growth. So in an ideal world, you love to, and I couldn't afford to do this. My kid pops out, my 2 kids pop out. I'm starting 529. I couldn't afford to do that for quite a few years after I popped out twins. So it's understandable if you don't have a huge nest egg, but if all of a sudden now you got a promotion or you got some inheritance or whatever, you won the lottery, you're like, I want to start putting that money aside. There's nothing wrong with doing a 529. It's just if you don't have a bunch of years in front of you before you're going to need it, the tax-free growth isn't as big an advantage. It's still there, even if you go into a conservative, which you should if your child is, especially with the market today. If your child's going to school in a couple years, 2 years is nothing in the market. It's short term. You're not going to want it to go into a heavy equity portfolio to get a lot of growth because you could have a lot of loss as well. So you don't have that perk when you take it out. It's tax free too. So I always tell people, if you want to, that's fine. Just realize you don't have that the long road where you're getting that tax-free growth. That's the first thing. The second thing is you're restricted in a 529. Like I just said, you can't pay for plane tickets. If you just scroll it away in an account and say, I'm going to put it in an account making 4% in a money market, it's not tax-free growth, but you can use it to buy clothes to go to college. You could use it for anything. For yourself or your child. So you don't have the restriction. But I will say you should look at your state as well. Because if you're in a state that gives you state income tax perks for having the 529, that's something to look at. Now you've got to look because if you don't, some states you can't just put it in and 6 months later take it out. So devil's in the details, but that's another piece. Like when I lived in Washington, we didn't have state income tax, but a lot of states will have perks like that for you to save. It's not for college, but if you're saving money to your state in the form of state income tax, that's a win and that's more money in your pocket. So there's no uniform answer to that question. So it's kind of up to you, but hopefully that gives you all the moving pieces to start thinking about to make the decision.
Yeah, I think that's great. I don't have much to add there, Peggy. And I think that this last question here, there's not a short answer to it. So I want to give it its full airtime. Matter of fact, we could do multiple episodes on this, certainly.
You love
Why
to talk about this one.
I love it. I just think it's fascinating, and I'll tease the question, but it's gonna be a cliffhanger, Peggy. It's gonna be a cliffhanger to the next Q&A, or maybe we will do a full episode on it. But why is college so expensive? And again, there's not a short answer there, but I think it's a fascinating topic, and obviously our job is we can't control legislation and kind of the macro system as it is today. We can just try to coach folks, try to coach you all how to navigate within it, because even though it is wildly expensive, or appears to be, at least, everybody has an affordable path to college still, right? And hopefully we hit on some things that you guys can implement in your own situation. But yeah, we'll save that one because I want to take my time with it, Peggy.
You want to get on your soapbox. I know.
Want to get on my soapbox. I need to get on my soapbox. So
And
that's
then I
exactly
can chime in with my different way of looking at things, which, you and I, that's what makes it fun. So
one. Yes. Okay, my dear. We'll go listen to some Luke Combs. Any other parting words?
no, everybody, yeah. Happy rest of June, and it will be July the next time you hear from us, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just like that.
See you next time.
Okay, thanks as always for tuning in to today's podcast. If you got any value, please like us, follow us, share us, come back and listen to us again. I'm Matt Carpenter. I was joined by our co-host, the Fairy Godmother Financial Aid, Peggy Keough, and today's episode was produced and edited by Aya Masood. We will see you next time. Thank you.